Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that my full statement be added to the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. My staff, I want to thank my staff, Elliot, who's here on the floor, Brad, Cirillo, Seth, and Brad for all the work that they've done as we've gone through the nomination process. And I was reviewing my prepared remarks this morning, and then I was reflected back on a very important moment during the Judiciary Committee hearing where Senator Cornyn asked, he said, if you can see among all of us, we have 3-ring binders, we have staff behind us, we've taken weeks to prepare, and you're about to go through some 20 hours of questions. Would you mind sharing with us your notes? She lifted a blank notepad that was given to her by the chairman. It had nothing on it. She came to that committee fully prepared to answer any question from the 22 members of the Judiciary Committee, purely from what's up there. And she did an extraordinary job. The reason she did an extraordinary job is because she's had an extraordinary career, both as a student, beginning as a student, then going to Rhodes College, where she was magna cum laude, then going to Notre Dame School of Law, where she graduated first in her class. She went on to be a professor at Notre Dame, and she was multiple times voted the distinguished professor by a broad spectrum of liberal and conservative students. She's also proven as a judge with some 600 cases going through the Seventh Circuit that she has an encyclopedic knowledge of that law. There were so many times when members on the other side of the aisle would try to trip her up or ask her a question. She had no notes to refer to. She got the specifics of the case right, and what she demonstrated throughout the entire hearing process, which I attended, was that she does her job by doing two things: looking at the plain letter of the Constitution, understanding the limits of that the laws can have within the bounds of the Constitution, and rule accordingly. Now, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle in Judiciary Committee were constantly, it was clear to me, after weeks of attacking Amy Coney Barrett, not directly, but through surrogates, that they were trying to demonize this person before they ever came before the committee, like they did with Justice Kavanaugh. But each and every time they asked her a question, she brought them back to the boundaries of the Constitution and the question of law before, in her case, the circuit court. And there was just no way to trip her up. So then what happened? Then they started talking about how you're going to go to the Supreme Court and you're going to overturn the Affordable Care Act. They asked her questions that they knew she couldn't answer, and Justice Ginsburg, pursuant the Ginsburg rule, they have no intention, no responsible judge would go before the Judiciary Committee and tell you how they're going to rule on a future case. It's actually a violation of their code of conduct. So she told them in so many instances, and what was interesting with some of the members on the other side of the aisle was, on the one hand, they would say you cannot overturn this president or that president, and in the same breath, they would say, but we want to make sure you overturn this president or that president. And every time, Amy Coney Barrett was calm and composed and demonstrated to everybody in that committee that she's going to be objective, she is going to be fair, and she is going to stay within the lines of the Constitution and the matter of law that's before her. Now, I think that it's very important to have a judge like that on the Supreme Court. Our religious freedoms are at stake. Our Second Amendment rights are at stake. We do have people that want activist judges. I don't want an activist judge, period, not for a conservative cause or a liberal cause. I want a judge that I know if I someday go before the Supreme Court or any American, I want to know that I have a judge there who's going to be fair, who's going to be thoughtful, who's going to be impartial, and will always have a concern for both sides of the argument, but at the end of the day, know that they have a responsibility to judge objectively. Now, Mr. President, I've had a couple of opportunities to meet with Amy Coney Barrett. And the last meeting that I had with her in the Capitol, just a few steps away from where we are right now, I brought 2 pocket constitutions with me. And I said, I have 2 granddaughters. One will be 3 next week. The other one's a little over 2 months old. And I said, would you mind signing these constitutions for Sawyer and Willow, my granddaughters? And she said, certainly. She opened it up and she signed their name and just said, dream big. When they get a little bit older, not old enough yet, I'm going to get them to understand, excuse me, the significance of that quick note from an incredible jurist, somebody who dreamed big and realized her American dream, a mother of 7 school-age children, 2 adopted from Haiti, 1 with special needs. She's going to be the first Supreme Court justice female on the Supreme Court with school-age children. She has 7 of them. She's able to manage the stresses and the challenges of being a working mom while she served with distinction on the 7th Circuit, while her husband works as well. She's realized her American dream. I believe that she's going to make sure that everybody else has the freedoms to do the same thing. I think Judge Amy Coney Barrett is going to go down in history as one of the great justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. It is a shame, as you just said in your comments a moment ago, that this is even a divided decision. In a less political time than we find ourselves today, I suspect that she'd have the unanimous support of this body, much the same way that Justice Ginsburg did when she came before the Senate. But today, I'm looking forward to voting for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. I'm looking forward to watching her build on what's already a very strong legacy. I'm looking forward to making sure that we continue to have a court that's independent, impartial, focuses on protecting all of our constitutional rights and freedoms. And I know, without a doubt, Amy Coney Barrett is going to be one of those stewards in the U.S. Supreme Court. Thank you, Mr. President.